Formally, good morning. Thank you for joining and getting up bright and early on a Saturday morning. As I said earlier, I've recognized many of your names, but if you are new to this Wellbeing at Home session, we are actually a wellbeing specialist holiday company. But I really like to run these events for free because I feel very passionately about empowering people with information and tools to help you all keep happy and healthy. So I feel really, again, very passionately about being proactive with our health rather than reactive, which we have tended to be in the past in this country. But I know it's moving towards a different direction now, so that makes me very happy. And obviously going on a retreat is the best way to totally focus on your well-being because you don't have all the distractions of your day-to-day life. But if you can't for any reason, or as a follow-up when you get back, we're here to provide you with many resources so that you can stay on track, and you can check out all of our previous recordings on our Wellbeing at Home website or on the Wellbeing Escapes YouTube channel. And there's a lot of great content there from the past. We've been doing these for, well, from the days of the lockdown. So I think about 3 years now. So that's good. Okay, so today we're very lucky to have two guests. This is a first for me. I've got to say, having two people on at the same time, so we have to coordinate that. Like, who should talk now? And I'm sure we'll be able to run it well. But we have Cornelius and Paris Ackrill, who are here to talk about the basis of the retreat. They run a couple of times a year, which is about achieving a state of profound rest, which I think is, the name itself is profound rest, and how we can try and also bring some of that into our own home if we can't go on retreat. So as an introduction to them both, Cornelius is a very well-known meditation teacher. He has studied the mind, meditation and Eastern philosophy for over 25 years and is regarded as one of the world's leading mind and meditation experts. His talks and retreats are well known for his ability to affect change in people, and he has a considerable amount of experience working with people who suffer with a wide variety of physical and emotional challenges, as well as those who wish to discover a more relaxed, enlightened, and insightful approach to life. Now, I've just read out his official bio, but I can tell you he's actually the real deal. And I have been on a retreat with him, and I'm very aware of his work, and he is actually full of integrity and can really help people. So I'm very honoured that you're here with us, Cornelius. Paris is equally special and is the co-founder of a beautiful space that is called Avalon, which is a wellbeing centre at the Broughton Sanctuary in Yorkshire, which I have also had the pleasure of being going to. And we actually ran a retreat there, again, pre-pandemic. And it's a very, very beautiful space. And she brings healing through her magical crystal bowl sound baths, which are amazing, and her understanding of therapeutic movement and how that can really help people heal. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And before we start, I just want to share with you a little video of Broughton, because I don't know if anyone's heard of Broughton, but it is a very beautiful spot in our own country in Yorkshire. So bear with me a second while I bring it up here and share it. And when we start, you will see Paris doing her crystal bowls. So you'll have an immediate introduction to Paris here. Okay, sorry, technology challenges here. Okay, Broughton Sanctuary, here we go. It makes me want to be there again. And lucky Paris is there right now, aren't you, Paris?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful spot, and actually quite easy to get to from the south as well. So I remember when Paris and Roger, who is the custodian, invited me, I was like, oh, Yorkshire, that's a bit far. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. But it's really quite close, isn't it? From London, you can get a train
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
within
just
a
2 hours to
hours.
Leeds,
Yeah,
and then a local
yeah,
train from Leeds.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's me thinking anything north of the Watford Gap is like a different country, and then I entered into the beautiful world of Yorkshire and fell in love with it. So it's wonderful. Okay, well, let's start on the subject matter of today, which is how about profound rest. And obviously, we all need to rest as part of our daily life through sleep and relaxation and going on a regular holiday and all those things. But what does profound rest really mean, and who needs it the most? And Cornelius, maybe you can start us off on that, please.
It's kind of multifaceted, I think, profound rest. I think, first of all, we've kind of all been, through the mill in the last 3 years in one way or another, and it kind of one stress after another stress after another stress, on top of what is already a very complicated life for many of us. And this kind of sustained experience of prolonged stress kind of agitates our nervous system, and we get stuck into a pattern of where our nervous system thinks it's normal to be functioning at this level of heightened activity and hyperreactivity. So we get stuck at that point. When we actually, want to come off of that point, what we have to do is, if we've been, in profound and prolonged stress for a long time, we actually have to actively work at reducing the level of activity in our nervous system, rewiring our responses and our reactions. And this is what a lot of people don't realize, especially when we've kind of had these, periods of prolonged stress. They think they could, once it ends, that everyone just feels better and relaxes, but it doesn't quite work like that. So that's one aspect to it. And then a much wider the much wider piece about profound rest is actually that's what we're looking for in our lives in any way. What part of our mind, our thinking, our beliefs creates tension, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the world around us. All of these things create all these stresses and tensions. When we iron these out and let these go, then we find this state of rest. Now, the highest state of profound rest we can really find is when we really are able to see our minds clearly, where we're able to not get absorbed in the thoughts and the emotions, where we're able to create and have space and presence. This is what really governs our state of rest. So what we're doing with the retreats is trying to engineer all of this. I mean, it sounds very simple just to rest, but if you really think about how little we actually do rest, and when we do rest, the quality of that rest, we often find that most of us spend our lives running from one thing to the next without being still. And you even find a lot of people will actually avoid profound rest at all costs. They just want to keep going, because also when we go into that state of profound rest, we take the mind off of all the stress responses. Something signals to our nervous system. Actually, now we can start processing and thinking about all the other stuff that we've pushed to one side. So when we go into a state of rest, that can all come flooding in. So what I'm finding when I'm working with a lot of people now is I've got a lot of people running away from themselves constantly, and creating this space where we can internally get into rest, where Paris is embodying it through the sound and the yoga, and you're doing it in an environment that is it's idyllic. It creates a set of conditions that really do allow you to drop into much more profound states of relaxation, and to have all that therapeutic benefit.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on a point there, because it's, I guess, understanding when your nervous system is shot. A lot of people aren't aware of that, because as you say, you go from one situation to the next, or one thing to the next, or they see rest as just being okay, I'm just going to relax or have a good night's sleep, or I'm going to go on holiday and lie in the sun for a week or whatever, you know. I'm not knocking that, of course. But you know, there's a lot of that, and how do you actually, what are the signs to understand that your nervous system has been battered and you are in a state of imbalance? Are there any signs people should be looking at? Because I think there are many people who don't really know that.
Yeah, I think the one that I keep hitting up a lot against when I'm dealing with people is exhaustion. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I haven't got enough time. I haven't got enough space. I'm rushing. You know, all of these kind of things are indicative that we've perhaps got our nervous system into a bit of a state. But for me, the main thing is looking at actually how we live our days. Do we find we are in rest? Do we find we are feeling happy? Do we find we are in presence? Do we find we have space? If you don't have those things, then there's something going on that needs to be realigned. But physically, you can have everything from, I mean, at the more extreme levels, you will feel nervous agitation, increased anxiety. You'll be flying off the handle when you drop the spoon when you're cooking, you know, hyperreactivity and stuff like that. But it does, the expression of it does vary in a lot of people. Some people at the kind of lower end of it, they just don't feel themselves. They don't feel rested. Everything else is becoming more problematic. Things like niggles and health problems that were not so bad, that they will start to get worse and worse because you're living on this kind of rush of cortisol in the body. And then what people tend to do is then they try and deal with some of the symptoms of that by eating sugar, drinking coffee, drinking alcohol, smoking, and then that just kind of I've got a lot of people that kind of get to, they think, oh no, there's nothing wrong with me, but then I have to have 2 glasses of wine at 6 o'clock or all hell breaks loose, you know. So it's a lot of people are self-medicating as well. So if you find you're self-medicating then in ways that aren't helpful, this is another sign.
Yeah, that's so true. I noticed that a couple of weeks ago we went through quite a stressful period at home. Both my husband and I were craving junk food, and believe me, junk food never enters my home. It just doesn't. And we need sugar, we need pizza, we need all these things, and we realized it was just for how we were feeling, you know, just our levels of stress. But as you say, we were aware of that. If you're not aware of that and you're doing that on a daily basis. So why did you, actually, before I ask the next question, Paris, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Well, I guess just to highlight again the point that, you know, often people don't realize that they're in it. One example that I use is, you know, when we're sitting on the sofa and we think we're relaxed, but actually, if you bring your attention to the body, so often you can find places in the body where you can release. And actually, it was a practice of mine to just do a super simple relaxation meditation for some months, because I was actually going through adrenal fatigue. You know, I'd been through a lot of stress. And it was just amazing, the layers that you can continue to just peel away, different holding, you know, that we just habitually have in the body. So it's a very interesting exercise for me, because there just seems to be deeper and deeper layers that you can kind of go into and move into. And our modern lives, you know, we're so saturated with so much, we're bombarded with things kind of left, right, and center, and we've really lost the ability to rest. And for me, it's also returning to nature and really spending the time just to allow ourselves to be in nature, and yeah, living in a more kind of in line with how our ancestors, I guess, would have lived. Yeah, spending more time in nature, getting up, you know, when the sun rises, and being more in tune with the kind of cyclical rhythms of the earth.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And it's interesting about the body, because a lot of the time we normalize that tension that we're carrying in our body, and we think that's just what our body is until we start to release it. I've been in that situation where, you know, I've released some tension. I was like, wow, I didn't realize I could feel this way. you know, because I've carried that tension around for so long. And then, as you say, as each layer, you get to each layer, you start to feel it in your body. I think a lot of us have forgotten that connection to our bodies. We live so in our minds that we've forgotten how to tune into our bodies and feel where we're, you know, where are we feeling this? Where are we feeling, you know, this particular emotion? For example, I talked about this last week. We did a qigong session last week, but I felt most people here know I lost my beloved dog, but I felt I couldn't breathe because it was all in, you know, the tension was around my heart area, and, you know, with the breath work of just opening up that heart area, I immediately felt better, because obviously we're holding grief in that area. But if you're not aware of that, again, you know, it just, you close in and you close in and you close in, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, and you're shallow breathing all the time. That's just one example. But there's, you know, there is a lot of that, of kind of connecting with our bodies. So Paris, you two got together. What made you actually start running this retreat? Because you do this retreat a couple of times a year, right?
Yeah, so this will be we're coming up to our third one in a few weeks' time. But Cornelius and I worked together on another retreat where there are kind of quite a few facilitators, and we were put together. So I did the Yin Yoga in the morning, and then we had breakfast, and then we went into Cornelius's meditation sessions. And I think we both just really enjoyed kind of being around each other, and we both I guess philosophically come from a little bit of a similar place with like classical tantra interest, and just there were a lot of overlaps, and I guess Cornelius was very much working with the mind and helping people to kind of move through things and understand the stillness and meditation, and then dropping people deeper into that meditative awareness. And then I was creating space in the body and settling people's nervous systems. There just seemed to be a really easy fit with our work, with me working with the body and the nervous system, and Cornelius working with meditation. So yeah, it was just very, very natural. And I love Cornelius's work as well. So for me, it was just like so delightful to be able to, you know, create this retreat. Yeah.
And keep learning from him.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, I go on these, I go on these weeks, I'm there on these weeks, and afterwards, you know, I feel such a shift and such learning. So yeah, I'm really, really grateful to be doing this work. And I guess we were sort of we started speaking about working together through the pandemic, and as the pandemic sort of started to lift, and it just seemed, yeah, that it's the thing that we should do, is to focus on rest. And it's also, you know, it's for people that are experiencing these kind of symptoms, but also I would say it's a real opportunity to deepen into stillness and silence and meditative practices. Yeah, it's a very kind of, you know, a lot of silent meditation retreats and things are quite masculine in their approach. You know, you're sitting for like many hours at a time in a room full of people sitting, and, you know, there's not much movement. And for me, we're kind of, it's a very sort of feminine holding, and especially being at Broughton, it's very nourishing. It's sort of like this, you know, just very deeply held on many levels. And yeah, so we're taking people into that space, but in a very feminine and gentle way.
Is it mainly women who are coming on the retreats?
Mainly.
Yes.
Yeah, we do have
it's
some
always
men.
the case. You have some men. And what type of people are coming? Do they have any specific issues, or are people with issues, or maybe PTSD or that kind of thing? Or is it people who just want to, as you say, deepen their knowledge and their state of stillness?
Yeah, I mean, we have both. So we have people
Okay.
sometimes which are coming with particular issues that they're wanting to iron out, and then some people that are just wanting to deepen in their stillness and in their practice. And what's so beautiful, and maybe Cornelius can speak to this a little bit, is the practices meet you where you are. And yeah, so we can have people that are, you know, maybe slightly newer to meditation, and then people that have done it for years and years, and you know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we can, especially with the numbers we have on retreat and the way that we're teaching it, it kind of finds out where someone is, rather than kind of drilling them with an idea of what profound rest and having lots of things to teach them and whiteboards and things like that. It's far more directed at their personal experience. And the way that the kind of meditation teaching is delivered is it always becomes what it is, based on who's asking questions, what questions they're asking, and how people are engaging. But what we're kind of finding is that we, you know, that the people are coming in at different angles, like looking for profound rest, or I'm deeply stressed, or I'm looking for enlightenment teachings, and actually you find that that they're meeting in the middle. You know, because these teachings and helping us this is how it works. You know, how we understand the mind using the yoga and the sound to embody. This is how you enter into a state of enlightenment. When you talk to some of these these masters on the mountains, what they will call it is profound rest, or words similar, or deep rest. They don't go on too much about enlightenment. It's about resting the mind, resting the mind, resting the mind, resting the mind. And I think as well, it's especially important, nowadays a lot of people kind of go on these retreats and they're already wired and stressed and their nervous system shot to bits, and then they go and do a very rigid, so many hours a day, very little food, or and it's just not right for them, or right for the body. So with us, it's such a supportive kind of process, a very, very gentle process, very intense as well, but very, very gentle. And the atmosphere at Broughton and everything from the food to how people are being with you, it enables you just to kind of just increasingly kind of let go.
So I want to talk about stillness in a minute, and silence, because that is something that we need to address around this. But obviously if people can't go on retreats, or for whatever reason are unable to do that, there are some practices that can be done at home, right? I mean, you're not going to get the same full-on experience and the same level of the same impact, let's say, but there are some practices that can be done at home. And Nira, after we finish our little conversation here, Paris is going to show us some yin practices, some yin postures, a couple of yin postures that we can do together with her. And she'll explain to us how they help. And also Cornelius will run through a meditation near the end of the session. But I want to come back to this idea of silence. So this is a tricky one, because people are quite scared of silence generally. And I've got to tell you a little personal story, which is quite funny. So many, many years ago, I decided to go on a Vipassana silent retreat. I had no idea what it was, to be honest. I just knew I was going to be silent for a little while, and that kind of vaguely appealed to me, but I like to try different things. So I went along. It was in the UK, and I went with a friend. And neither of us really knew what we were doing, so we went armed with books and stuff, and we were like, okay, well, it's okay if we don't speak, we can read, we can catch up with our reading, and we could do. And then we got there and we realized what it was all about, that there is no reading, there is no speaking, there is no nothing. You were just literally going in complete stillness and silence. And my first reaction was of sheer panic. I've got to say, I almost got in the car and left, because I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do? 3 days here, what am I going to, where's my mind going to take me? But then it turned into an actually beautiful experience for me, and I started to really get in touch with just mundane things like my day, you know, like how I moved, how I, you know, eating, it's tasting the food became a whole new experience for me. You know, how I could really focus in on that specific you know, action that I was taking at that time. And, you know, as someone who's naturally chatty and I'm always chatting away and I've got a, you know, kind of butterfly mind, it was a real a bit of a challenge, but I really enjoyed it. And at the end of the 3-4 days, I just felt so refreshed. And now, this was many years ago, now I crave it. I crave silence. So, but why was I scared of silence? And why are other people scared of silence? What is it about silence that scares people?
You only exist in the noise, or what you think you are only exists in the noise. So the perception we have of ourselves is that we are the thinking mind, which I you know, raise objections to, obviously, when we're doing the meditative process. We're not the thinking mind. So if I say to you, stop talking, and we'll do some stuff to stop thinking, all of a sudden all the alarm bells go off, because what our sense of who we are just wants to keep existing and keep carrying on. So half the battle of getting people into stillness is getting them to realize it's okay to let go of the thoughts. You exist when there's no thoughts happening. And what are you in that space? What are you when you're just eating? What are you when you're just walking? And it's about discovering what you are beyond all of these ideas that we have about ourselves. But we're so wedded to these ideas that we cling to them, and we couldn't think of anything more terrifying than silence. And I think Vipassana and things that are, you know, wonderful. They give us this kind of very hard baptism of fire into the realm of silence. So, you know, you have to be quite kind of brave, I think, to sit there without anything. But as Paris was saying, these retreats, they're kind of far more kind of feminine and gentle in their approach. So even when we have 3-day build up to silence, and then when we go into the silence, in the sessions, you can talk, you can ask questions. We explore things, and also one-to-one with, you know, me and Paris, you can explore things, you know, just come up to us and grab us and I need to talk about this. So when stuff's coming up, we can help bring it up. But what we find by the end of the week is everyone's like, I'd love this to go on for 3 days where I just don't talk and don't do anything. And because once people get it and they're like, God, this is really blissful, this is really I'm peaceful, you know, I feel good in this space, then they start to fall into it. But before that, it's very, very hard to get people into silence. And it's why you'll spend your days, you know, thinking, wow, meditation's a great idea, but never doing it. You know, it's why you think, I really want to start going for walks in nature, but you never do it. There's a resistance to it, and part of what the work that we're doing on the retreat is bringing that resistance into question and knocking down those kind of walls, so that when you do go home, you can start doing all these practices that really help. If you did 20 minutes of meditation a day, if you walked in the woods or in nature for an hour, and you did some physical activity and some movement that got you into presence and into your body, you would resolve all these things over a month, 2 months. But the fact is that we're so absorbed in all of the coping mechanisms and all of the mess of the mind that we avoid all of that.
Interesting. So at home, if you can do 20 minutes of silence a day, but, you know, even things like walking in nature, so many people do it with their buddies, with their friends, and then they have a big old chat as they're going along, and they actually, you know, that's a nice activity to do, of course, to be with your friends and socialize. But with the emphasis on this and achieving silence and peace, doing that on your own is a completely different experience, right? That connection to nature without feeling that you need to converse as you're doing that becomes a different experience.
And it's getting out of the habitual patterns as well, because, you know, you can still be by yourself and go on a walk in nature, but just not be present at all to what is there. So it's about just, you know, switching it, really going into your body and really being there, you know, looking around and not needing to go into any stories about anything or labeling things, and just witnessing, you know, returning to the senses.
Mm. And people wonder what, we look at the Amazon jungle and the shaman and we say, wow, they're so aware of their environment, so connected to their environment, so quiet in their minds, how amazing. But it's because they're in the forest all the time, they're in the forest all the time, walking through the forest, hunting in the forest. They're in that space all the time. And what we're doing, in the modern world is avoiding that space all the time. So we're creating states of stress. But when we take ourselves back to nature, when we come back into it, and when we start to learn to let go of the kind of morass of thought and emotion and whatever else is going on, you do find you start to become more connected to nature. You find your intuition lifts. You find your state of perception increases. It's not that they are wired completely differently. It's that we don't have exposure to that environment in the way that they do culturally.
Yeah. And it's going back to those fundamental, basic ways of living, I guess, that connect us to who we really are, rather than all these ideas and stories that our minds tell us all the time. How many thoughts do we have each day? I always forget that.
A lot, millions, I think.
Massive number.
You're only aware of a certain amount of them, even the ones that you think you know of, the subconscious ones you can be completely unaware of, but they're still cooking around in there.
Yeah, gosh. And how many days silence then do you do on the retreat? Because it's a 6-day retreat, right?
Yeah, so it's 3 days. So we do 3 days of preparation and then 3 days in silence. But as Cornelius said, it's not this really strict thing that we're holding of like, right now we don't talk. In the sessions, we have this open space for people to bring anything that they're going through, anything that's coming up, any questions that people have. So it's very sort of flexible and open, and then what people also realize, that even when we're talking, the silence and the stillness is there. It's sort of underneath everything.
Wonderful. Okay, I think we've had one chat here. Jane is process of moving house and finding at night she can't sleep as her mind is placing furniture about the new house. That's the kind of thing I would do. Where am I going to put that chest of drawers? Any little bit of advice there for Jane, Cornelius?
I would say, first of all, moving house is one of the most stressful things you could do, and people do not realize it. They think, wow, I want to move. I've got this wonderful new home and I'm moving into it. And what you don't realize is all of your anchor points as you have as a human being, you've just upped them and brought yourself into a totally alien environment. And so your head will go 10 to the dozen. You will suffer with things like insomnia. You will have things like stress. You will have all of that. And part of distracting ourselves from the uncomfortableness of re-establishing our home is that you will busy yourself with thoughts of, where am I going to put that teapot? Or your mind will go into the places where it's comfortable doing, and also you're kind of trying to reorganize in your environment, so your brain will naturally think, how do I make this mine? So I think part of the way of dealing with it is to understand that that's completely normal. If you were to go into a new house and be like, yeah, this is great, I feel fantastic, that would be indicative that there's something abnormal going on. So it is something that's stressful. Be kind to yourself. Go out for walks, get to know the area. If you're feeling a sense of any kind of insomnia or anxiety once you move, actually go walking out of the house, walking all around the roads, walking around, finding your natural spaces. Give your mind a map of what the area is, and then you'll find that your mind will start to settle as well. But it's very normal. So a bit of meditation and a bit of familiarity.
Great tip. Maz, what is a typical 24 hours like on the retreat? Personal time versus group time, meals spent together, what options during personal time, is your time fully scheduled, etc. Paris, do you want to take that?
Yeah. Also, I would just add on for Jane, what really helps me. I went through a period of of insomnia. And what helped me was just a nighttime routine. And when you're moving house, you are going to have so many things on your mind, but just, taking 20 minutes, half an hour, if you can, before bed, just to try and create space to decompress a little, to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So we're going to do a little breathing practice in a minute, and doing something like that and having a little stretch, just coming out of the mind into the body, will help. But for the other question, so on the retreat, typical 24 hours, we start off the day at about 8 o'clock with our first practice. So we really create, a nice, so many retreats, you wake up early and you do yoga practice. We're creating space to let people, really rest and get all the benefits of taking it easy in the morning. So we practice for about an hour and a half together, and then have breakfast. And then we do our longest session of the day, which is about 2 hours before lunch with Cornelius. And then after lunch, typically we have about a 3-hour window, which is unstructured, for people to, unwind in the pool suite at Avalon, use the sauna, use the steam room, go for walks in nature, and have one-to-one therapies. We've just got a new flotation tank, so you can have a little float. All sorts really. And then we do a shorter evening practice before dinner, and then occasionally we have things after dinner, but maybe 1 or 2 nights we might have like an extra sound bath in the evening, or we might go to the fire temple and have a little ritual and gathering there. And then in some of the afternoons we do group forest bathing, so we'll go and sort of practice mindfulness and nature together. We might do some yoga nidra, and we've got a woodland sauna and wild swimming activity that we do as well. But it's very much down to you to be as involved, or do more of your own thing. So it's quite flexible really. Cornelius, would you add anything to that?
Just that there's a good balance between the time spent in sessions and then time spent walking in nature under your own devices and enjoying the space and massage and reflexology and all of this kind of stuff. I think that half the thing with a retreat is it can be tempting to try and fill the schedule with loads of information that we want everyone to have, but actually a lot of it is having the space so that people can actually find rest. And also the time that they have in the afternoon allows them to think and absorb what's been said during the day, and then they come back with the questions and stuff from having sat and absorbed it. But yeah, there's a good balance between the activity and the space, and again we try and meet everyone where they are. If someone comes and says I'm exhausted and I just need to rest, then we try and make a schedule work for them by saying to me, maybe miss a morning session, maybe only do the afternoon. Like, we try and bend and fit it. Having said that, obviously the more of the activities you open yourself up to, the more therapeutic benefit you do get.
Yeah, thank you. So the next retreat is in 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
18th of September.
18th of September. Okay, so the next one starts then. And do you have another one planned after that? You haven't got a date for that yet?
Yeah, we do actually. It's in May. I think it's in May sometime, isn't it, Cornelius?
Yeah, I think it's May, and we've got one in May and October, is it? Or
yeah, May and
okay.
October. Oh, so in May it'll be the 13th of May that week.
Yeah. Okay. So they Lisa says, why do you only do 2? I think they've got a lot going on at Broughton, haven't they? And
there's so many great retreats going on. It's
yeah. We have some on our website, and so I love Broughton. I fell in love with it from the first time I went, so I always like to promote what they're doing there. And so we work with Paris and Cornelius, and then there's other retreats that will be coming up that we'll be promoting. But these 2, I personally know their work, so I really wanted to bring them on here and let them talk about it, because it's just a really, really good work. Okay, so shall we start with the yin?
Yeah.
Or the breath, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm just going to move this a little bit further away so you can see my body. So for those that don't know Yin Yoga, it's yang is the masculine and the yin is the feminine. So yang is very much the doing practices. So when we're holding the muscles, strengthening, if you're doing regular forms of exercise in the gym, hatha, vinyasa yoga, where there's a little bit more fire. And yin is more of a kind of cooling practice. So we work specifically on the fascial network, which is this webbing, and it's kind of like a scaffolding which goes throughout the entire body. And it's sort of known that we store a lot of emotions in the fascia. And it's also thought that the ancient sort of meridian maps, they align with these fascial networks. So it's also thought that practicing yin is like a deep dredging of the energy system in the body. And so when we hold stretches for a long time, they're very passive. So we're really relaxing the body as much as possible. But at the same time, we're also finding a sweet spot. We're finding an edge where we really feel something. And this is a great practice for life because we're sitting in that place of discomfort, but finding that stillness and just observing what is happening rather than getting caught up in it. And when we also stretch, it's also naturally really relaxing. And they've done all sorts of studies on mice and seeing how they relax after they're stretched a little bit. And yeah, it has lots of kind of relaxation effects. So we'll begin just by sitting in any comfortable seated position. Keep my eye on the time there. Stella, how long do we have? Because we're maybe running.
Yeah, we're running a little bit late. We had so much to talk about. So,
yeah.
Maybe we just do about. Yeah,
we do a little bit of breath work and then one posture.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And then we can get to it.
Just sitting in any comfortable seated position. I recommend lifting the hips slightly because it allows the natural curves of the spine just to be. And then if it feels comfortable for you, you can close down the eyes. And just dropping the awareness down into the body. And just feeling how your breath feels in this moment. If there's any dominant sensations in the body, any dominant emotion. Just noticing, observing, without getting caught in any stories. And then to begin, we're going to do this candle breath. And we inhale normally through the nose. And then when we exhale, we're just going to round the lips. And it's like we're flickering the flame of a candle. So we're not blowing out a candle, but just like we're flickering the flame of a candle. So inhaling normally through the nose, if that's comfortable. And then as you exhale, rounding the lips and flickering the flame of a candle. Continuing within the rhythm of your own breath. And what you'll find is that exhale just naturally begins to elongate. Continuing. Few more rounds. Last round. Letting the breath just return back to normal. And just noticing how you're feeling, any subtle shifts within. There's no right or wrong. And then when you're ready, ever so gently, just blinking open the eyes. So that practice we'd normally do for a little bit longer, but it's really a really good one. Super simple. You can do it anywhere, you know, on the tube. It just helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system to take us into that space of rest and digest. So we'll take one little yin posture just to give you a little taste. And for this one, we're just going to sit with our legs out in front of us and bringing the soles of the feet together. And we're going to create a diamond shape with our legs. So your feet can be further away from the body or further towards the body, whatever you feel. And it can help if you can see that I've just got a little slither of a blanket just to raise the hips slightly to prevent any doming in the back. And what can be really helpful to do here is just to look at the knees and to check that they're kind of level, because quite often one hip can be slightly more open and maybe one knee is slightly higher. And then it's important to level out the legs so we don't kind of cause any repetitive strain in the back. So you might want to just get some pillows or blocks and just to level out the knees. And then once you're sitting comfortably here, we just fold forward and find where the body naturally falls. And you can either hang out here, but what can be really nice is to find something to rest the head onto, and you can kind of build up your props. So you might want to kind of stack some cushion to just find a comfortable position. So this is called the butterfly forward fold in Yin. And then we just bring our awareness into the body. And you can use awareness of the breath to help you stay centered as that kind of mind training exercise, or just simply resting in your beingness. So drawing your awareness to sensations in the body. And without going into any stories, just noticing any tingles, maybe a temperature. Just exploring your inner landscape. Sometimes emotions begin to bubble up, unfelt emotions that maybe we've been distracting ourselves from. So you want to feel an edge here, like you're feeling something happening.
but not too much and not too little, just a sweet spot. And as the body naturally begins to yield with gravity and soften with time, then maybe you can take a proper way and come a little deeper. If you find that the mind wanders, you just bring the awareness back to the body, back to the breath, softening the jaw, softening the body as much as possible. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. It's really giving yourself this opportunity to just be. And we'll just begin to deepen the breath. Filling the body with fresh chi, fresh energy. And then on the next inhale, if you feel like opening the mouth and sighing out, letting something go with the exhale. Really surrendering to the shape. And then when we come out of a posture in yin, we move super slowly, just absorbing all the intricacies, all the subtle sensations, letting yourself really witness what is happening within. So maybe you just want to raise the head slightly. You might feel the blood begin to rush back through different parts of the body. And then when you're ready, coming all the way up. And then maybe just straightening out the legs for a moment. Maybe you want to bring a little movement into the legs just to help this kind of flushing out and flooding in. The dead blood cells are taken away and new cells for regeneration, new life are brought into the body. So there we go. That's a little yin snippet.
Beautiful. What a lovely way to start Saturday morning. Beautiful.
We normally practice with beautiful music as well, and I don't talk as much, so you can really go into the meditative space.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, we're running a little bit late, but hopefully people can still, well, those of you who can stay on and enjoy Cornelius's meditation. We'll just move into that now.
So we're going to try and do a 5-minute practice just to show you just how little meditation you actually have to do to create a change in your perception, in your view and how you feel. So all you have to do is simply close your eyes, sit still, forget everything you ever heard about meditation, not trying to do anything at all, no practice at all, just sitting. There's nothing wrong with the thoughts or the emotions. There's no need to wage war on them. Just starting to fall into a state of profound acceptance for what's arising. We build these layers and layers of resistance up, from everything to foods we don't like to traumas we've had. But as we sit here, we just fall into a profound acceptance. Everything, every sound, every sensation, every thought, every aspect of our past, everything that will be in the future. So this is how we allow the mind to rest, just to allow the mind to surrender. We can get caught up in, oh, this sound I don't like, or my mind is busy, but none of these things are obstacles. They're only obstacles if you say they are. So instead, just sitting and being with what is. And to see that actually throughout our lives we're lost in the mirage of our mind, the thoughts, the emotions, they're really internal hallucinations. There's absolutely no reason at all why we should flap about within a sea of our own projections. So instead of flapping about, just start to float within the sea of your experience. Begin to discover it's how our mind is meeting things that's the important thing. It's not what it's meeting. It's not the sound that is annoying or the sensation. It's how the mind is meeting it. So we're really making peace with ourselves and with life. So absorbed in the thoughts and the emotions that we forget the underlying nature of our mind. This moment-to-moment awareness. We're absorbed in the thoughts and the emotions. We overlook the most significant aspect of our experience, the fact we're aware. So we just come to that experience of being aware. If there's anything you ever remember about meditation or your own mind, it's to come to the very simple experience of your own consciousness. Thoughts and the emotions scatter, they come and they go, they're unstable by their nature. You cannot stabilize thought. You cannot stabilize your emotions because they're always in a state of flux and change. But the underlying nature of your mind isn't. And we connect with that just by being present and being aware of things and noticing that we're aware of things. When we let go of the thoughts and we come to this awareness, it's from this awareness that the intuition arises. It's from this awareness that wisdom arises. And without any effort at all. Don't realize it, but underneath those thoughts and those emotions, your mind is already Buddha-like. It's not a state you have to acquire or chase. It's just that just as when an eclipse happens, like the moon seems to block out the almighty sun, so too do our thoughts and emotions seem to block out our own experience of consciousness. It's only because of our vantage point where we're observing. It's only because of our entanglement with thought and emotion. And all we have to do to remedy that is simply change this vantage point to come to our simple experience of our own consciousness. And simply stay here. So lots of people think when we open our eyes that meditation should finish, and it's not that at all. Meditation is simply training the mind into a point of view. And so as we very gently open our eyes, whenever we're ready, very slowly, actually nothing's changed. Your consciousness is aware of every object, every color. Really start and sit and think about your nature. You know, who are you? What are you? How are you doing all of this now? How are you aware of colors? How are you aware of shapes? How is your mind creating the display of thought and emotion? How are you sustaining it? What is it that you really are? You come to look at yourself, you come to see that you're something very, very unusual. Become lost, really. But as we start to come to our mind and start to see its nature and how it's behaving and what it's doing again, then we can begin to start to remember our nature, who we are. So this is a very kind of short practice. We'll do this probably for around 20-30 minutes in the morning, 20-30 minutes in the afternoon. The rest is conversations and questions. One thing I also wanted to add just about the lady who was asking about insomnia. Put the night shift on your phone. It's the orange light. You should have that on all day. Don't ever take it off, because the blue light upsets your rhythms. And another thing, if you're even haven't got time for this length of meditation, look at something called the Harvard sleep technique. Dr. Weil, I think it is, or Weil, he does a really good video on it. It's a very short breathing technique that you can just do in 3 or 4 rounds that will help create a meditative state. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, Paris and Cornelius, you've set us up for the day. Thank you for the weekend. Wonderful. I feel very serene and calm. And I'm sure a 6-day retreat with you would be actually quite life-changing. So both of you together with these practices. So thank you for being with us today, sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you everyone for coming along. If you're interested in their retreat, give us a buzz, send us an email. There's somebody working today, Simone's at the office, so if you're interested in that, you can give her a buzz. And wishing you all a beautiful week ahead, lovely weekends. Thank you for your presence and sending you lots and lots of love. Take care.
Thank you, Stella. Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.